Hello everyone, and Microsoft has been allowed to purchase Activision Blizzard, and this is something that surprised some people, a lot of other people, myself included. We knew this is how this was going to end. Microsoft was going to be allowed to purchase Activision Blizzard because there's not really a justifiable reason as to why they shouldn't, and Phil Spencer put out some tweets about it. We're grateful to the court for swiftly deciding in our favor. The evidence showed the Activision Blizzard deal is good for the industry, and the FTC's claims about console switching, multi-game subscription services, and cloud don't reflect realities of the gaming market. Since we first announced this deal, our commitment to bringing more games to more people on more devices has only grown. We've cited multiple agreements to make Activision Blizzard's games, Xbox first-party games, and Game Pass all available to more players than they are today. We know that players around the world have been watching this case closely, and I'm proud of our efforts to expand player access and choices throughout the journey end. So Phil Spencer's actually really excited about this. He's talked many times about allowing these games to be available to many people. So it looks like we'll just have to wait and see how honest they're going to be about that.
I'm ruined. I have nothing left except Spider-Man.
PlayStation also accepted the deal that Microsoft gave to them earlier during this trial, which is a deal to publish Call of Duty on PlayStation at the same parity that they publish it on the Xbox. Quote, "We are pleased to announce that Microsoft and PlayStation have signed a binding agreement to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation following the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. We look forward to a future where players globally have more choice to play their favorite games." End quote. So, once again, we'll also have to wait and see how this actually plays out, because if there does show some parity, that means they were lying. But I also have more of a belief in Phil Spencer than I do in Jim Ryan. Speaking of Jim Ryan, let's see how a lot of the Sony fanboys are coping with this.
Right, Dad? It seems the tables have turned again, Dr. Evil.
Not really. Kill the little bastard, see what I care.
A lot of them are really desperate to have you believe that they don't really give a shit about this, but there are tons of people that I know that buy one console just to play Call of Duty. That's all they want to play, just Call of Duty. And there's a lot of fanboys actually pointing this out. Here's one. Quote, "I'm a PlayStation fan, but let's be real. If Sony isn't so worried, why the hell they fought so hard to stop absolutely everything? Lol, they were scared AF." End quote. And he is right. Sony was scared of this deal from the very beginning, and that is absolutely why they fought so hard to make sure this deal didn't go through.
How Sony didn't send Xbox dev kits, so they couldn't work on a PS5 version of Minecraft.
So if you're one of the people that actually paid attention to what was going on in this trial, you would have actually seen that this trial made Sony look worse, because it pointed out all of the things that Sony does that actually affects Xbox's ability to get games onto their platforms.
Starfield was about to be a PlayStation exclusive, just like Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop, so Xbox was forced to buy ZeniMax to prevent that from happening.
This is actually really bad, and it makes Sony look really bad. On top of that, you have multiple times where Microsoft has basically said, we are not trying to do the same business practices as Sony, and they get flamed for it. Every single time they get flamed for it. Meanwhile, Sony gets praised for competing in these very bad business practices and basically trying to prevent another platform from having games from third-party publishers. Why do you think Final Fantasy wasn't published on Xbox? Because Sony paid Square Enix a bunch of money to not put it on the Xbox.
Final Fantasy 16 and other third-party publishers consistently skip Xbox because Sony pays them to.
And if you don't believe me, there's actually a quote from Jim Ryan where he literally says, "I don't want a new Call of Duty deal. I just want to block your merger." This is what he did. If you're going to sit here and say that Microsoft could very easily do something really bad with this, but you're not concerned about Sony at all, I'm going to say this right now. I believe you're looking at it the wrong way. The FTC did try to put in an emergency motion to try and block the Xbox and Activision Blizzard merger, and Microsoft made a statement about that. Quote, "The cardinal sin of antitrust mistaking a competitive disadvantage for a particular competitor, Sony, with harm to competition and consumers," end quote. This is all part of a larger document that I'll put right here. This is Microsoft basically saying the FTC is essentially working with Sony to try and prevent Microsoft from having any type of advantage in the market, even if it's an advantage that they need to be competitive in the market. This makes, once again, Sony and the FTC both look really, really bad. And then you also have the Sony ponies trying to make it look like they knew what they were talking about the entire time. Here's one. For years, MBG used to be PlayStation's first-party deals to taunt Xbox and Xbox gamers. Now MBG is blaming it for causing the Activision Blizzard acquisition. I thought you loved those deals. Don't flip now. Yeah, this is what a lot of them are doing. Here, let me play that clip for you.
Well, Sony with their third-party deals, they should have slowed the fuck down. Sony fucked around and they found out. Yes, they did.
Yeah, this is what a lot of Sony fanboys are doing. They're trying to act like, oh no, we knew what was going on. And of course, you have one of the biggest Sony fanboys, Dreamcast Guy. I believe that this tweet sums up Dreamcast Guy instantly. Xbox has these guys returning to their fake neutrals phase. And that is true. Dreamcast Guy tweeted, "I truly think Microsoft is going to start making everything except COD a console exclusive ASAP. Makes me very glad I own an Xbox right now," end quote. Dreamcast Guy, we know you're a Sony pony. You have been since day one. And my favorite thing is now you're trying to act like you're not a Sony pony. You're trying to act like you've always been like, oh, I knew exactly what was going to happen since day one. I told you that this was going to happen and that this is how it was going to work out. No, you didn't. Let me pull up that clip of you that gets circulated all the time.
The Activision Blizzard deal is officially blocked. It's done. Microsoft is not buying Call of Duty.
Yeah, you're the one who basically said that this deal was over months ago. And everyone, myself included, told you you had no clue what you were talking about. And yet you still try to act like you know what you were talking about. And one of my biggest things is whenever you had to come out and you had to make a video admitting that Sony lost. And while we're talking about Xbox, Xbox Live is dying. There will no longer be Xbox Live. It is all changing to Game Pass. That is the only other major thing about this. Otherwise, a lot of it is going to be the same. The new lineup is going to be Game Pass Core, $9.99 a month. You'll get 25 games plus online multiplayer. Game Pass Console, which is $10.99 a month. You'll get hundreds of games, but there will be no online multiplayer. I think that's a bad decision. I think if you're going to ask people to pay more money, you should give them online multiplayer. I'm also one of the believers that online multiplayer should be free to begin with. There's also another subscription at $9.99 for hundreds of games, but this is PC Game Pass. So you only get Game Pass on PC. And then you have Game Pass Ultimate, which is $16.99 a month, hundreds of games plus online multiplayer. Honestly, if you're going to get this, you should get Ultimate. Otherwise, if you don't really care about Game Pass, then the Game Pass Core would be the best option for you, because then you still get online multiplayer and a few of the games from Game Pass, but not all of them. At the same time, this is a very good business decision, but at the same time, it's a really bad business decision because of the online multiplayer component of it.
You're a loser!
Now, I can already see people asking me, why are you talking about this in a video about Xbox versus the FTC and Sony? Well, it's not really that important. It's just something I wanted to mention so that everyone understands in the future it's no longer Xbox Live or Xbox Gold. It's Xbox Game Pass Core. And for a lot of people, that's not important. It's not really a huge change aside from the name. But for someone like me, it's a pretty big deal because I really liked Xbox Live, and there's a lot of members, including Stallion83 that I showed a tweet from, that really did did like Xbox Live Gold. And also, if you're going to be one of those people that say, why do you care so much? Why don't you just go outside and touch grass? Well, I've touched plenty of grass, but I'm pretty sure this is the only way that you've touched grass, because the only people that tell someone to touch grass are people who sit at their desk all day on Twitter. But I would like to see likes, comments, subscribes, especially comments. I would like to see your input on what you think about Microsoft being allowed to purchase Activision Blizzard, and what you think will happen with the CMA in the future. Just leave that all down below, and thank you for watching.